if we could address you directly right now.
Everything comes full circle.
That's number one.
I don't tell him what questions to ask me.
There are a lot of people around town that have the same question.
Brush my teeth. I'm a good wash in the morning.
I can't confirm or deny.
You know, just keep going a little bit longer here, Mike. You keep going a little bit longer.
I had a chance to listen to the last call. We game plan for PJ Hall.
Uncle. I have a list of guys I would never hang out with. Your name is right on the top.
Do you like the worst song bracket we're doing?
It's considerably better than the supplement bracket. Let's start with that.
I won a limbo contest.
Oh, my God.
Fran Brown joining us.
These guys are working their butts off. They expect to see their fans.
You want extra money just because you're North Carolina? I'm in all right
What
now.
an honor for you and Jordan to be next to me
every day.
This is Orange Nation.
There's music, there's fun, there's us. It's everything you could want all in one place.
With Stephen Fonte and Paulie Sibilia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to have you with us alongside Paulie Sibilia. I'm Stephen Fonte as we welcome you into a Monday edition of Orange Nation. Transfer portal has officially opened.
Yay, great.
We'll get into that certainly as the show moves along. Mike McAllister coming in at 12:30.
Portal expert.
Tim Leonard, 1 o'clock. And then
I wish he would get in the portal.
We'll mix in your phone calls throughout 315-437-7644. What's up, Paulie?
Not much, Steve. I was going to do Bird Artist of the Day today, but we're going to do songs that could be construed as portal related. Okay, we'll have fun with it. We'll do a little topic.
We were going back and forth over the weekend over text, and I think that maybe somebody listened to.
Should I stay
or should I go?
I'm not going to say I'm happy with this because I kind of wanted Chris Bell back. Not going to lie. I've made that abundantly clear, right? I kind of wanted Kyle Cuff back. But it's a new era. And if you're coach, I don't know who made the decision, should I stay or should I go?
Yeah, right.
But Chaba Moore and Chris Bell are two guys that, there's no guarantees in the portal, but I don't think you can risk your career on guys that you're hoping to improve, right? You've got to be sure these guys are going to be good.
Yeah, and I think that it'll be interesting to see the portal additions that the team makes because I'm right there with you, and I've said that for a couple weeks now that they can't really take a chance on a guy that they're not sure about. And you're right, there are no guarantees. Nobody's 100%, but they got to go in. I feel like they got to go after guys that they know can come and make an impact at this level for this program because you're right. His job is on the line next year. I think we would all agree on that. There's a lot on the line, not just Adrian Autry, but across the board for Syracuse basketball. And, we've seen it for 3 years out of Chris Bell. He's got 1 year left. And, I happen to think that this could be a positive for all parties involved. Chris gets a fresh start. The program gets a fresh start from him. And you bring in some new blood and see what it looks like.
You know what drives me nuts is this. Everybody it's not everybody, and I'm not going to say it, but it's like there's a majority of people I would think that think this is kids saying that they don't like the coaches and they're abandoning ship.
Correct.
And I don't know if that's the case. It may be for one or two of them. It may be for all four of them. I don't know. But I feel like, no, it's more of a, hey, this is a money issue now. And some of it's, hey,
playing time, too?
Playing time, yeah. No, but I also think it's a money issue from Syracuse.
Yeah.
We've got to pay players to come here, and we can't wait. It's a horrible thing to say in today's age, but we can't waste it on a guy that we don't know is going to play here.
I'm glad you brought that up because I will go back to the end of the season, right? I think my personal feeling is if the players hated the coach, they would not have played like that at the end of the season, right? Guys were still invested, playing hard. They played their best basketball at the end. And I do think that it's a case of money. I think it's a case of playing. In the case of Kyle Cuff, he said after the year, I would love to come back. I think he looked at it and saw the writing on the wall that there's really not a role for him here, not a big role.
Well, I think there's a role. I just think
it's a limited role.
Yes, and he's moving further down the depth chart.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
This year, yeah.
And with Chris Bell, obviously there is a role, but we saw what it looked like this year, and things did not go well. And, to your point, can they keep crossing their fingers and hoping that he gets better? And you see flashes in some games, and then other games, it's just not there. And you need some consistency out of a guy that, again, going into this year, I think we all expected him to be at least their third best player, and that did not happen. So, yeah, I mean, it's to be expected. You're going to lose guys. Like, we knew that they were going to lose guys, right? We knew there was going to be a lot of roster turnover. Everybody's going to be dealing with this. And I think that, and that's why we play, should I stay or should I go? You look at the roster, there are two guys in particular I think the program desperately wants back, and that's JJ and Donnie. And they have not announced yet. So that is a good thing.
Do we go by my other famous portal time saying, Steve? Is
no news.
No news is good news. But we fell for that last year with Malik Brown.
Sure. Right.
Where it was kind of out of nowhere.
And it's just day one, and things could change, and we'll see how it goes. The fact that they have not announced yet, I think, that's at least encouraging. The other guy, and you brought up Majstorovic last week, and I think that, I think most would agree that he did some good things this year, and it would be nice to have him back. I don't know what his ceiling is here, but I liked what I saw, and I think if he's willing to be a piece and provide some depth on this team, and a guy who could come off the bench and be an energy guy and a hustle guy, and I think he could do that very well. So I think those are the three that you look at. Obviously JJ and Donnie are in a different category than Majstorovic, but I think you hope that he comes back as well.
And there's another thing, and it's happening in our chat right now, and I saw this a lot on social media. I mean, there's so many guards and players from Syracuse that are in this tournament. How good would we have been? Every school has 4 guys playing in the tournament that were on their squad once.
Yeah.
Right. It's just the way college basketball is now. If Kadari Richmond was still at Syracuse after 5 years, good on Syracuse, because in today's era, that doesn't happen.
Well, and you and I have talked about this before. If Kadari Richmond stayed at Syracuse,
he'd probably be in the
NBA. He probably wouldn't be playing 5 years of college basketball, and I believe that.
Yeah, his move to Seton Hall probably was not a good decision NBA-wise. Financially, he's made out okay.
He has, right.
Because you're not getting 1.2 guaranteed, in your first year in the NBA.
Right. And he can't shoot.
Yeah.
He can't. He can't shoot, and he can't make free throws. And I think, we saw a little bit of all of that on display as St. John's was bounced early.
Quadir played okay, good for them. I was happy for him.
And yes, he did. He's still reckless with the ball. I mean, I don't know, for people who watched the Clemson game, he had 7 turnovers in the Clemson game. Yes, he did some good things, and he's a big part of what they were trying to do.
He won a tournament game.
He did.
That's all that matters.
Correct. Well, right. It wasn't just him. I mean, he didn't do it by himself. But he is who he is, right? He's flashy. He makes some plays. He makes some dumb turnovers, but that's who he is, right? And I think we saw what he was last year. Now he's getting more time, so you see more of that on display. He's going to score more, and he's going to make more turnovers. And they won a game, and then obviously they did, Purdue played lights out in the second round.
We'll probably see him at a Power 5 school next year, right? You would think?
I think he's going to go to NC State.
I don't know. Yeah, he might. I mean, I would put that number 1 on the list.
Yes.
But I mean, they might get outbid.
Okay.
People might spend on him.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. My guess is he follows Wade to NC State, but he'll be back in the ACC. But we shall see.
Let's go to Kentucky, the heartland of basketball. Hey, Al,
Paulie.
What's up?
Paulie, I called you a couple weeks ago and called in. I'm sure it was you when we talked about Quadir, and you kind of made fun of him. You kind of made fun of McNeese State, and
okay.
He did all right.
Yeah, he did. He did all right. He moved down a level. McNeese State isn't the ACC.
No, but he did. He did. And you guys are right. He is what he is, but he showed he could play against Clemson, and no one on our team could.
Yeah, but he struggled last year against Clemson. He was also guarding Shefflin last year because Syracuse didn't have a 3.
I just kind of lament, and I don't know what happened. I'm assuming it was school, but that more effort wasn't made, thinking that he was so easily replaced.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I just get the sense that Coach Fran, despite being younger, has more of is not opposed to staying on top of players and making them accountable. And he was someone that it seems like he was just kind of, just kind of cut loose for whatever reason, which is sad because he clearly liked it here. The teammates liked him, and again, we did not trade up.
Yeah. How do you think this team would have been with Quadir?
I think we'd have won 4 or 5 more games because he's a better defender, he's a better distributor, and he can attack the rim. There's no question in my mind we would have won more games than with Carlos. How many games in Carlos was out there that you thought he made a big difference? A couple toward the end, but the first 9 or 10 games when we're struggling against bad teams, I think with Quadir out there, it's different. Look how good he was at getting the ball to Malik. They had a good connection, and I think he could have had the same thing with McCullough. Certainly could have had it with Eddie, and I just think, and plus he's had the size. He's an SU point guard, 6'6", can get to the rim, can defend. All our good teams have a quality point guard. We had many years where Boeheim lost point guards and the teams underperformed because, and that's why he went to the policy of once he signed a point guard, he quit recruiting other ones so that people felt comfortable when they signed with Syracuse. He lost a couple players to Georgia Tech years ago.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I am not going to blame this on Carlos. Carlos was brought here to do one thing. And here's what happened. Donnie Freeman got hurt, first one. Secondly, JJ got hurt. Those two, you can't help. The other things are Chopper Moore couldn't score. Chris Bell couldn't score. And there was just no scoring on this team. It wasn't Jaquan Carlos's fault. He was supposed to distribute. They messed up in the portal. And there was just no scoring.
I don't blame him. I think he was a bad choice. It's not his fault he didn't belong here. But you asked me, do we think I would have won more games with Quadir? And I say, without a doubt.
Okay.
The other thing that concerns me about next year is, I'm, and we'll disagree here, I'm sure, but I look at Chris Bell. When was the last time we had an NBA-ready athlete at small forward? Okay. Plus, he's the only small forward we have. Now, he didn't defend, but I don't know if these guys can coach defense because no one defended on that team last year.
So, hang on. I'm going to jump in here, Al. You're not suggesting that Chris Bell is going to the NBA, are you?
No, I said NBA ready.
What does that mean, though? Do you think so?
He doesn't. Athleticism.
He can't put the ball on the floor.
He
doesn't rebound.
But again, that's I'm talking strictly potential. He has athleticism. He has size. And even Jim Boeheim said he was always surprised when he missed a shot in practice.
I would say a lot of guys have potential, and I think that at what point do you expect a guy to realize the potential? He's been here for 3 years, and yes, he can shoot.
He's a good kid.
His game has not developed, and yes, I think we are going to agree to disagree on that because they've had a lot of talent. You talk about the small forward position over the years. Yeah. They've had a lot of talent, especially at that position. Chris Bell is uber talented. Obviously, he had a lot of potential.
O'Shea Brissett was just there, right?
Yeah.
They've had
he just didn't develop. I think
Buddy
the way
Boeheim played the three a little
that they had hoped, and I don't know. I think it's a good thing for both parties involved that they move along. The other thing I would say, and I know unfortunately we ran out of time with Al there. He brought up chemistry. I'm not sure how close last year's team was. You know what I'm saying? Like he from the outside looking in, you can say like Quadir, he's fun, always had a smile on his face. I think if you look a little bit deeper at that team, and I'm not saying it was his fault or anybody's fault in particular, I don't think that team was very close. I don't think the chemistry was very good on that team. Anyway, he's not here, and he had a good season where he was. He made some money, and you wish him well.
I would not be hurt if Chris Bell decided to come back. Like, I don't know if it's an option, but if there was one kid that's in the portal right now that was coming back, I would take him.
Yeah,
I don't think that will happen, but he does have upside. It's just he's got to want it.
Yeah,
and it does. And from the outside looking in, I don't get that vibe. He does have upside. It's just he's got to. You think he'll be at an ACC school next year? I hate that they can transfer in conference. I don't get that vibe. There's so many things that need to change, but you think he'll be at an ACC?
My guess is somebody a Power 4 school will take a chance on. My guess
he's definitely going to be a Power 4 school, or a Big East,
Well, you say he absolutely will. I think it depends on what he wants. I don't think he's starting at a Power 4 school.
Oh, he could.
You think?
Yeah.
He came off the bench this year.
He started.
Right. He wanted to come off the bench.
Syracuse.
I know.
Yeah. So no.
All right. We'll see whether or not he's a starter next year. But I think this is just the way it is now. You're going to lose some guys, and I think that if you're a Cuse fan, I think you got to be fine with who they've lost this year to this point. I think the two priorities are Donnie and JJ. I think everybody would agree on that. And if they get those guys back with the freshmen, with the right additions in the portal, I think you got something.
Yeah, and we'll continue to discuss. I tend to not get excited when I know they're good players, but when I see Delaware again and North Dakota State, I think if I had to risk my team, I'd go Chris Bell again. But what do I know?
But we just got done saying that you got to go into next year knowing things, not guessing and not hoping that I hope this guy works out or I hope I get. Aren't you at that point with Chris Bell where it's been 3 years and?
Yeah, but I've seen it a couple times.
That's not enough, in my opinion. I mean, I think it's again. You're right. He's a good kid. You wish him well, but I think things kind of ran their course here. And I think he will benefit from going somewhere else. And I think the team will benefit from moving on and getting some new blood in here at that position. And, I think it's just better for both parties involved if they go their separate ways. Just my opinion. 315-437-7644. Mike McAllister coming up at 12:30. Tim Leonard, 1 o'clock. Back after this on ESPN Radio.
The countdown to Yankees baseball has begun. Opening day is Thursday. Listen here for all the news and information on Yankees baseball. The countdown to opening day is brought to you by...
I get that some of these small school players are... But you're also... There's a risk in those picks. Why would that be in too remote? Who the hell would hit that button? I don't know how Chris Bell would do with Rick Pitino.
Well, Dan, our team will reach out to me. If I can't get it done, well, you're going to get the call.
Can we just say if that had happened here, where Pitino
sat the best player
for the last 5 minutes of the game, and they lose to a 10 seed with $4 million in NIL money being paid out, what would happen?
I want to ask you a question about that on the air. I asked Natan and Devo a question, and I want to ask you. Is Dilemma Cuse in the chat? He's on my poop list. Yeah, he is. Good. You remember how I said I was in that chat, the message board, where they were all crapping on me? That MFer is he's liking freaking posts that say I should be fired and replaced. So you're not I'm not a fan. Unless there's another Dilemma Cuse in this room.
Mike B, so they talked about it post game, and Pitino, without saying it, said he benched him.
So what do Jim Boeheim, Coach Autry, and I have in common? Dilemma-Cuse wants us fired. Yeah. I was just there to check out the nice posts about Steve, and I
bet there's nice posts.
Yeah, there were about Steve.
Oh,
from
I thought
North
you meant me and you.
Syracuse.
I was going to say
no, about
okay.
Steve from North Syracuse,
Gotcha.
and then I had a stomach bug Friday and went home early, and just laid in bed all weekend because I couldn't trust a fart all weekend. But I'm better now. Happy with that conversation, Steve? Sunday was good, though. I went to the gym.
You're right, Mom. Our model of excellence has always been to treat you like a member of our own family.
So if you're in need, visit a Ferone and Son funeral home near you. 1500 Park Street.
Oh, I'll put my name in that ring.
West Taft Road in Liverpool, and always available at FeroneandSonInc.com.
Thank you. I'm not feeling great about the Padres roster, San Diego Q's. They got guys raking in spring training, and they're just taking a bunch of old guys. Come on. Jason Hayward and Yuri Gurriel over freaking Oscar Gonzalez and Connor Joe. They're both raking this year. Kevin, what'd you have? Did you have the squirts? It was not fun, Steve.
Were you throwing up?
No. Thank God. I hate throwing.
Yeah.
But I was crying on the bowl. I want to stop. Drank a lot of Pedialyte.
So that's good. That's the way to do it.
It wasn't staying in me long. But so just. Will you say squirt, Steve? I feel great today. I went back to the gym. Oh, it was nice. No, we're just doing a son of a gun.
Watch live on QSportsTalk.com.
It's just I was going to do songs about the portal. People are moving like cyclones through the portal, Steve. They're just flying around, flying out.
Good save.
Let's go to Scooter to get this segment going, Steven.
What's up, Scooter?
Hey, guys. I don't think it's any coincidence. The two 1 seeds that were pushed over the weekend with their opponents were Connecticut and Gonzaga. You know, we got two teams that eights and nines were they're established. When it comes March Madness. So that wasn't a coincidence right there. You guys kind of busted my chops about the Pepperdine point guard Mo Odoms, and he hasn't entered the transfer portal. And personally, if I'm in Pepperdine and Malibu, someone offers me $200,000 to stay, I'm staying because I can be on the beach after classes. But a friend of mine over the weekend approached me, listens to you guys religiously. He was on a website. If he is in the transfer portal, he's one of the top 5 point guards that would be in the transfer portal. So keep an eye where he ends up if he goes to the transfer portal. But he is talented.
All right. And you watch a lot of those games, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, I haven't watched a lot of Pepperdine, so I will defer to you on Mo Odom.
Well, I'm just saying that just from the standpoint of what I saw.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally took a team that had no business going to the semifinals, put him on his back, and they averaged 20 and 11. And what I liked about him was bulldog mentality. Even when they were losing by 20, he was trying. And it's interesting when you watch all these games. If you listen to Hubert Davis after they lost to Mississippi, you swear you're hearing Autry. He had the same comments. The reason why they lost is why Syracuse lost. Missed layups. They missed 8 layups. So they couldn't play defense when they had to. Couldn't get a rebound when they had to. Lousy turnovers. And so it's just not Syracuse. If you watch all these games, I mean, if anybody watch the Oregon and Arizona, which are top programs, some of the crazy stuff that the players do now. It's not just Syracuse. It's just the way basketball is played. And I love Lapis, and I was watching the St. John's Arkansas game, which I think they set a record for percentages from three-point. Lapis says there's a reason why you're open to 3 points, and that's because you're a lousy three-point shooting team. Drive in, and unfortunately, if you watch basketball, people still shoot threes even though they're not going in.
Yeah. Appreciate you checking in as always, Scooter. The one thing I'll say about Mo Odom, I looked him up again as we were talking there, listed at 6'1".
No.
I would be surprised if they go with another point guard that is lacking in size.
Yeah, because if he's listed at 6'1",
he's probably not, right?
5'11".
Yeah, Jaquan Carlos was listed at 6 foot. So
yeah, and so was I.
Yeah. I was listed 6'1" in the Ithaca media guide, and I'm very much 5'11". So I would be surprised if they went with another point guard who is about 6 foot. I think they got to go with, in my opinion, I think they got to go with somebody with a little bit more size and length to help on the defensive end of the court.
So I had the take going into the tournament, Steve, and you kind of poo-pooed it, and I want to see if I was right or wrong after the first 3 rounds, whatever. I hate that. Less madness this year?
Yeah, I mean, I thought we would see some upsets. We saw a couple of 12s.
Yeah.
Drake and McNeese, and you see Arkansas make the Sweet 16. But yeah, I mean, by and large, the better teams advanced, and it's
they got
more money, better players.
The kids that were at the lower level schools were usually seniors when they were pulling those upsets, and now they're at the schools that they normally upset.
Yeah, I mean it does feel different. Again, I still think you're going to see upsets. In the tournament, we didn't get any huge ones. I mean, I think we're okay with that, or are we not okay with it? I mean, we want the better teams in the Final Four, right?
Look, I get that. But if you're going to take the madness out of it, it should just be all Power 4 schools and have a separate tournament for the little guys.
But I mean, who defines what a little guy is? Like
mid-majors.
But is Gonzaga? Are they a little guy?
Not anymore. No.
But I mean, the rest of the conference is. St. Mary's isn't. But
I don't know. There's a few outliers. There's never a perfect plan.
Drake.
There's never a perfect plan, Steve.
Right.
But why couldn't they be 1 seeds in the other guys' tournament? Maybe make the NIT for mid-majors.
I think there would be a lot of pushback on that because I think that part of the allure is the little guy pulling off an upset. And you may not see it as much, but I still think Drake still won a game in this tournament, right? I mean, McNeese State still won a game in this tournament.
Yeah, I get that. But if you're McNeese State and you could win the tournament of the,
what would you rather do?
Yeah. Or lose to Duke in the first round,
I mean, it's an interesting thought. I mean, they do that at the high school level, right? They split everybody up into, various classes. Because, I mean, obviously, we won a state title my senior year. We weren't winning a state title if we played, in Class A or Class AAA, as they call it now. So I get what you're saying. I don't know. I think there would be a lot of pushback on that, even with the media partners, because part of what makes this thing so big is that everybody has a chance, right? Even the little guy has a chance. The Cinderella story, everybody loves it.
But that was how he started, though. Like, that chance is not as good anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at McNeese State. I was looking over the weekend. Like they spent $1.7 million on their roster. That's and not everybody can do that. I understand that, but that's still like if you want to compete, you know what it takes to compete, right? And I think you're still going to get upsets here and there. Are you going to see Loyola Chicago go to the Final Four?
Like it's
probably
great
not.
Like say Princeton, or maybe if they're in it and then they lose, they go to. Like, I don't know. But we'll see.
Like, have this lesser tournament be after the NCAA?
Yeah, or expand, do you expand now and let the lower seeds play each other and get a couple wins in before they, make it? I don't know. It's just the upsets are going to get less frequent, I think, with NIL.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue. I mean, this year, I think we've certainly seen that. Is it was it just a case of everything's new right now? So let's let the dust settle and let's see, if this is a trend, if we see this 3 years in a row, then, maybe it's time for some change. I think right now, I think you keep it the way it is.
Well, yeah, it's not going to happen now, but I think as long as they keep paying players, you're going to see a much larger disparity. It'll get more like the women's tournament.
Yeah. Where, you're basically saying that the mid-majors are going to lose I feel like that's been happening anyway for the last several years. The mid-majors have been losing their best players. But, yeah, the gap may grow between the haves and the have-nots. I think that is a fair point.
All right, I got one more question for you, Steve, before we get to Mike McAllister. You know what? Let's ask Mike McAllister this question because he's a portal NIL guy. I'll ask him about Rick Pitino, NIL, and playing players.
You want to save it?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take a timeout. Mike McAllister joins us next on ESPN Radio.
I didn't see what time it was. That was me covering my ass. I looked up and saw it was 12:30 when I was about to. Do you think? All right. I was thinking about this. McNeese State, Clemson. Clemson definitely wins a 7-game series, right?
Say that again?
McNeese State, Clemson. Clemson definitely wins a 7-game series.
Yeah, did you watch the game? They played their worst game of the year. They played awful. Yeah, and they lost by 2. Yeah. Clemson probably wins that series in 5.
Yeah. It's been one heck of a winter here at Nye. We've decided it's time to move this inventory with what we like to call deep snow. That's why you love the trip, Dan. Absolutely, Nicky. We've had such a blast of winter this year that our sales numbers have been off. So to combat that, we're taking the deepest snowfall in years and giving out the deepest discounts in years. Thousands, if not tens of thousands off certain vehicles for a winter's over celebration. Nicky, what happens if our team can't make the deal that our customers want? Well, Dan, our team will reach out to me. And if I can't get it done, well, you're going to get the call.
L.A. Orange, I get your point. McNeese is not better than Clemson. I don't know if you watched the game, but I get that they won the game, but Clemson is better than McNeese. McNeese outplayed them on that particular day. And the fact that McNeese is paying its roster essentially what Syracuse is paying its roster. They're not your typical, they're not your typical little school.
Backed by years of experience, our Medicare insurance advisors are here to guide you through your coverage options and plan changes for 2025. Visit onegroup.com or call One Group today at 315-457-1830. That's 457-1830. When you think Medicare, think One Group.
We do not offer every plan in your area. Any information we do provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-MEDICARE to get information on all of your options.
New year, new you. Need a new ride? Q's Cars is the place. With over 250 vehicles available, we're sure to have what you're looking for. Need financing? Q's Cars is the place to go in Syracuse. Challenge credit, repossession, bankruptcy, no problem. Not sure if you can buy? No problem. Get approved online now at QSCars.com. Right now, we'll get you driving today.
I was thinking about something, Steve, over the weekend. My parents used to tell me a lot of weird things as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, don't talk politics with your friends. Don't tell people who you vote for.
It's good. It's good advice.
Don't tell people how much you make. Another one my mom used to tell me is don't give people other people's phone number without getting their permission first. That's a good life lesson, Steve. Do you agree with that one?
Yes.
Thank you. You know what my dad's best advice to me was a lot? Shut the fuck up.
And don't just dream it, live it with a new spa from Liverpool Pool and Spa, Manlius Center Road in East Syracuse, Route 31 in Baldwinsville, and online at liverpoolpoolandspa.com.
Hello, Syracuse. Dave Anthony here for Romano Subaru. Consumer Reports #1 mainstream brand. The Subaru A Lot to Love event is going on now, and it's the perfect time to discover.
Hey, for all the guys saying that, Will Wade outcoached, Brad Brownell. I'm legitimately curious. Do you guys think that Rick Pitino got outcoached against Calipari?
Because you liked a post that said I should be fired.
If that's what it's all about, Mama, if that's moving up, then I'm moving out.
The portal is open, Steve. Get it?
I get it. That was a good choice.
I'm moving out.
Yep.
Moving out.
Chris Bell, Kyle Cuff, Elijah Moore, they're moving out.
Some people wish I would move out of Syracuse. Let's go to Mike McAllister, and I want to lead with this question to both of you today. In the era of NIL, and we were talking about Rick Pitino and how great of a coach he is, but there are people donating money for that school to win tournament games and paying a particular player the player of the year in the ACC, Big East, RJ Lewis Jr. To play. At what point is there going to be, like, I keep saying NIL is not sustainable because there's no return on investment. How would you feel if you paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to get that kid and now he's not playing in the last 2 minutes of a tournament game you could win? Mike McAllister, I lead you with that question.
Well, first of all, I would have an issue with anyone that wants Paulie to transfer out.
Well, thank you.
Let's start with that. But anyway, to your point, there's a fine line between the influence that you have when you give money to help get good players and that influence dictating how coaches coach. Because at the end of the day, part of your support of an athletics department is also entrusting that they're going to have the funds to attract the best coaches or, a really good coach that can help you win games. If you're doing that, but then not allowing that coach to coach, and Rick Pitino has a long history of being very successful in the NCAA tournament and being a great coach and all of that, then at what point why even have a coach at that point, right? Like, just throw the guy that throws the most money at the program out on the bench and say, you play who you want since you're the one spending the money. So there is a fine line there. I'm sure that someone who is spending money and sees that could be upset. But at the same time, it's not like the guy was 12 for 17 shooting, right? He was 3 for 17, wasn't playing well at all. Didn't seem to be playing within their team concept, kind of seemed to be going out on his own a little bit. So there's justification for why he wouldn't play in the final few minutes based on how he was playing in that game. But that's certainly going to be something that programs are going to have to deal with behind the scenes, because there's going to be a booster somewhere who's going to be upset when that happens and say, I didn't give you all this money to get this player for him to sit on the bench. And there's going to be a conflict there between how much does an administration cave into that so they can keep the money coming, or how much do they say that's the coach's decision, and if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you, and then you get someone that decides to take their money elsewhere.
Well, that's my biggest question. I wasn't questioning whether they should be coaching or not. If you were a big money donor, when next year rolls around, aren't you going to be less likely to want to give money if in that situation?
I can only speak on it from my perspective. My thought is, if I like the coach and I think the coach is a good coach, then I'm going to trust his judgment on a lot of those things. My job is to help him get as many good players as possible, and then it's his job to coach them up and put them in position to win tournament games. If I don't like the coach, then I'm certainly going to use my influence to say, this is why I don't like the coach. And if you want me to continue donating money, we need to look to someone who is going to make better decisions.
Did it feel like to anybody else that the coach, in this case Rick Pitino, was sending a message and not so much like
I texted that to you and Jordan. I go, is he really sending a message right now?
That's what it felt like to me, Mike. And I know you laid out what his numbers were in 3 for 17 and obviously did not play well. I think we got to keep in mind that he got subbed out with 4:56 to go. He had just made 2 free throws to cut it to 2. It was 64-62. Kadari Richmond had already fouled out. He was out of the game, and they could not make a shot collectively. And the best player in the conference, you sat him on the bench for the last 5 minutes. I thought that it felt like he was sending a message opposed to, and again, I'm not saying he wasn't trying to win the game. Of course he was trying to win the game. But it felt like, and I saw somebody say this on social media, and I thought it was spot on. It was kind of like Gene Hackman in Hoosiers, when the guy fouls out, and then the guy on the bench starts to go in. He's like, no, where are you going? Sit down. My team's on the court, and I'm going to play with 4. It almost felt like that the last 5 minutes, that it was like, we're going to go down with the guys on the court. I'm not putting him back in the game.
Yeah, I don't know what message that would send.
Right? I agree. It to me, it made 0 sense.
Yeah.
And, and I know that he was 3 for 17, and, my son and I had them in a survivor pool, so we were very invested, and we're like, why in the world are they not putting him back in the, to me, it made 0 sense.
I'm sorry I did
There has
this.
to be something going on that we're not aware of. Something like there was a discussion in a huddle, we're going to do this, and
right, he didn't do it.
Said,
right,
no, I'm shooting.
Yeah,
and then Pitino was like, no, you're going to do what I say, and there was a conflict, and Pitino basically said, all right, I'm going to show you who's really in charge here. You're sitting the rest of the game. Barring something like that, I agree with you. It makes no sense. But I'm not sure we'll ever find out about that unless the player decides that he wants to come out and say something, because it was very clear from the post-game press conference that Pitino was not going there.
I'm sorry I did this. We got the portal guy on, and I'm talking about Rick Pitino.
It's okay. It's fine.
Mike, anything shocking out of the 4 departures for Syracuse to you?
None whatsoever. Everything pretty well expected to this point. I think we're still kind of waiting to see whether or not Donnie Freeman or J.J. Starling or something like that enters the portal. I think most people expect J.J. to be back. I think the fact that we didn't hear anything about Donnie throughout last week is a positive sign, and the fact that we're midway through the day on the first day the portal opens and he's not in there is a good sign. So, we'll wait and see. Hopefully, I think it would make everyone feel better if they made formal announcements like, hey, guys, I'm coming back, just FYI, so there's no confusion. The longer it goes without that, then I think the more on edge fans are going to be. But either way, the fact that you have guys like Bell and Cuff and Moore leaving, not a huge surprise. I think most that were, plugged into things kind of expected that those were the most likely names that could decide to head elsewhere.
I said 4 because I'm making the assumption, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. Is Chance Westry coming back, or is he gone?
I have no idea. I mean, he's the problem. Okay, so if he enters the portal, who's going to take him is the other part of it. So, I get Syracuse saying, look, we can't rely on you. Who knows if you're ever going to be healthy again? Probably best for you to go into another direction, or we're not saving any NIL money for you. Basically, if you want to come here on scholarship and just take up a roster spot, fine, but you're not getting any NIL money. I could certainly see Syracuse doing something like that, but I don't know who else would take him at this point, given the injury history. But if he comes back to Syracuse, he's going to be, I think, pretty far down in terms of the pecking order, at least going into training camp. Now, certainly, if he all of a sudden plays unbelievably in training camp, he'd have an opportunity to earn playing time that way. But I don't know that anyone can honestly rely on him as far as going into next season. So I don't know. He might be on the roster, he might not. But I guess we'll find out.
What are your expectations in terms of, and I know we've asked you some semblance of this question a few times already, but in terms of what Syracuse wants to get out of the portal now, whether it's certain names or, just types of players, what are you looking for over the course of the next several weeks?
Yeah, they've already had some, reports out there that they've been linked to a few different players, and it looks like they're obviously after a big. That's certainly going to be a big priority, and then they're looking for guards and wings, or kind of the other spots. And the fact that I haven't seen them attached to a bunch of power forwards either also leads me to believe at this juncture that they think they've got at least a good chance of keeping Donnie Freeman, but. Clearly, three-point shooting is a big priority for them as well. Several of the guys that they've been linked to are players that are shooting, 37% from three or above, guys that shoot a lot of threes, et cetera. So it seems that that's something that Alex Klein, as the GM, values, is three-point shooting, and they're certainly trying to improve that weakness from this past season.
One name that popped up that I think Syracuse fans are familiar with is Jalil Bethia, the freshman out of Miami. Is he a name to keep our eye on? He does have some size. He does have talent. They've been linked to him in the past. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly understand keeping an eye on him because of that link in the past. The thing is, his primary recruiter when he was being recruited by Syracuse was Jerry. Jerry obviously is gone. He didn't have a particularly great year at Miami this past season, although he did play well against Syracuse. Most guards did, to be honest with you. But I don't know that I see them as targeting him as like a major priority. I could see them talking to him, evaluating, potential fit, or saying, hey, if you come in, maybe play in a reserve role for a year or two and then compete for a starting spot. But not a name as of right now that I'm anticipating is going to be a top priority for them.
When do you think we'll have an answer one way or the other on Donnie? Do you have a feel for that? I know a lot of it's speculation, but do you have a feel on how soon we would know?
I don't. I'm hoping, I think for everyone's sanity, that it'll be at some point this week, but I don't have any information on a definitive or, even a gut feeling on a time frame. It's, they've been keeping everything very close to the vest, he and his family, and I anticipate that that'll continue. Maybe stuff will start to get leaked out once, they're ready for it to be known at that point, but also wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden one day there was just a post on his Instagram account that said, I'm coming back, So don't have a definitive answer for you, but I'm hoping for everyone's sanity at some time this week. Of course, he could also elect to just say, if I'm coming back, I don't need to announce anything, and just not ever announce anything and drive everyone crazy. That could happen too.
God forbid he tweets an emoji or Instagrams an emoji. I can't do this again. I can't. Just say I'm coming back or I'm leaving. Rip the Band-Aid.
If I was in his shoes, I would do the random emojis and random days just to mess with people on a daily. Just random emojis that mean absolutely nothing to see how much people will read into it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I
Paulie.
would do the wind emoji because people would be like, "Oh, he's leaving. He's blowing like the wind."
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Big eyes emoji.
Yeah, the eyeball emojis. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a football question before we go? Go ahead.
I got one more basketball question. The JUCO rule. Do you think there's any chance that McLeod comes back as like a third option at center, or any option at center with that JUCO rule?
I don't think so, but I never rule anything out. Now, the JUCO rule, there are some specifics that it's not just a blanket, everyone qualifies for this. So I don't know his situation enough to know whether or not he does qualify for that. But if he does, if he's comfortable being a reserve big as he was this past year, then if I'm Syracuse, if you get a big out of the portal and you've got Mastorovich, and if you get Freeman back, then having McLeod as, a rotational big that can play 5 to 10 minutes when you need it here and there, I think it makes a ton of sense for Syracuse. Whether or not that's what he wants if he has another year of eligibility, or whether he wants to go somewhere where he thinks he can play 20-plus minutes a game, that's up for him to decide. But from a Syracuse perspective, I think it would make a ton of sense to have him come back and play that similar role.
All right, I want to ask you a football question. This stuff that's going on with Syracuse and Colorado, and they've put the proper paperwork in, and we know it's against the rules right now. Do you think this is actually going to happen this year, where they have a joint practice and play a spring game out in Boulder?
I do think there's a chance. Now, the problem is it's in the hands of the NCAA.
Right.
And the NCAA, which is only job is to govern, is terrible at governing. So are they likely to make a decision that seems like a slam dunk, no-brainer, get some hype around the sport and, perhaps change things around and save the spring game and make this a fun thing with who are we going to, partner with this year and all those types of things? I don't have much confidence that they would make an easy slam dunk decision, as it seems like in the past they've messed those things up. But I do think that there is a possibility. I know both Syracuse and Colorado are, talking to the NCAA and trying to do everything they can to make it happen. So it wouldn't surprise me if it does. But again, I'm not going to count on the NCAA making a good decision.
Yeah, they could just wait until it's too late for everybody involved and kind of punt on the decision until next year.
Would that surprise anyone?
No, it wouldn't. No. I mean, it was kind of like with Kyle McCord, right? It was wait, and then he made his own decision, and the NCAA didn't have to decide.
It also sounds expensive.
To go out to Boulder?
Yeah, for a team to have to pay to go practice. I would not be a fan of
Good
that.
advertising, though.
Yeah.
For the program. All right, we'll take a timeout. Mike, as always, appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll wrap up hour number 1 next. Then Tim Leonard kicks off hour number 2 back after this on ESPN Radio.
Like, people don't take that, like, when a football team travels, it's like moving. It's literally like moving your house every game. You have to have a truck, move your stuff.
You need a plane?
You need a plane to carry your family of 150. I was hoping Delamacuse got fired today. Thank you. Don't like him. Not a fan. Oh, here we go. For lunch with Daryl Strawberry. Brian Higgins is doing it. It's a subscriber Monday, not a Tuesday, Steve. What's your favorite berry?
Straw.
Strawberry? I don't like them. I like blue.
I like blue. They're good, high in antioxidants.
Sometimes they have sour ones, and I don't like the sour one.
Okay.
Hey, Dan. Yo, Michael, what's up? The hell do you want? My shoulders are looking broad today. Thank you. I have 80 shoulder pads in. I stole them out of one of my mom's old dresses. Yes, I have my mom's old dresses. I like to wear them some nights. I'm glad. I'm glad they had fun. My hair is not looking great today. I just rolled out of bed. Sorry. What's up with Indy? She's doing great. Spoiled rotten. Jordan, are you eating boneless wings against Joey Chestnut? No problem. Anytime, Michael Antonio. My new theory is kill him with kindness, except for Dilemacuse. I hope he's fired. Yeah, sitting next to Steve makes me look like Brad Pitt. It's not how good looking I am. It's just Steve is so gross. No problem. We have the same haircut? It's Portal Day, Steve. Get it?
Got it.
That's the original from the Nylons. I'm still sticking by Chris Bell being back, even in light of the latest things in my life. I would rather have him back than risk going into the portal unless I know I'm getting a power 4-3.
So you've seen the show Let's Make a Deal, right? And they say, this is what you have. Do you want to trade it in for what's behind, door number 2? And then you have that decision to make. I feel like your argument last year would have been more of an argument.
Well, my argument last year was horrible because I said he was going to be all ACC.
But I'm just saying that I feel like last year would have been a more difficult decision than it is now. I think you've seen 3 years, including what we just witnessed this past year. And if somebody said, all right, you can have this again, or we'll give you what's behind door number 2, which, again, you get to see that in advance. You get to see what door number 2 is before you take it because you know who you're gonna sign. Mm-hmm. I think you got to go with door number 2 at this point. I just do. I think that it's run its course, and he may go somewhere next year and have a better year, and you hope that he's a good kid. Like, you hope that he has a better year. It just didn't work out here, and I think that there are other guys who can do what he does. Like, you keep saying, like, somebody who's a 40% shooter. Well, he wasn't a 40% shooter this year, and he didn't bring much else to the table. There are guys in the portal that do what he did this year and do it better than that.
Do you know what hurt Chris? The injuries, people want to hear excuses. The injuries hurt Chris Bell the most, I think, out of all the players on the team. Because he
became the focus.
He went from, maybe 2, maybe 3 on the depth chart to 1, right? He was their offense at one point.
Yeah.
And they scored. Scoring wasn't a problem, but if you're looking at the offensive side of the ball, he helps because he spreads the floor and whatnot, but rebounding and defense were not great.
Yeah, I mean, his scoring went down from 12 points a game to 9 points a game. His rebounding actually went down from 2.3 to 2, if that's possible. His rebounding went down this year. His three-point percentage went down from 42% to 35%. His field goal percentage went down. His minutes went down. I mean, everything went in the wrong direction. And, turnovers went up. Assists went down, again, minimally. But everything went in the wrong direction. And I don't know. And again, he's a good kid. I want to keep saying that because he is. And you hope that he could figure it out somewhere else. But if you're Syracuse, if you're Adrian Autry, everything that this next season, everything that's on the line, I think you do have to go with door number 2. You do have to go with the unknown opposed to taking a chance on that for a 4th year, in my opinion.
All right. And I don't know. I don't know. I've been wrong on a couple players. Chris Bell is one I've gone to bat for a lot. And, yeah, Tyler Roberson was my other big. I thought he was going to have a dominant senior year.
Plugged in Roby when he was plugged in. Man, good.
I thought he was good. Like, I was like, Matt Park and Coach Saddleton laughed at me because I said that Roby, after his junior year, was going to be the next Rick Jackson. Like, he was going to make a huge jump.
Yeah.
They were right. I was wrong.
Didn't happen.
I thought Chris Bell was going to make that jump this year, and I was wrong.
Yeah, and for some guys, it just doesn't happen, and it didn't happen. And I don't know. I do agree with it's good to be old, right, and have senior leadership, but I'm not sure he's the guy that you want as your senior leader, right? I mean, I think you've got JJ, and you do have some veterans in the program. You assume you're going to get some veterans out of the portal. I don't know that Chris Bell was the best when it came to leading the team. You know what I'm saying? And so, I don't know. I think it's a good decision for both parties that he ends up somewhere else. All right, let's take a timeout. We've got Tim Leonard set to join us on the other side. We'll kick off hour number 2, talking some lacrosse with Tim. Back after this on ESPN Radio.
CJC, I just assumed Chance Westry. That's who the fourth was in my head. I said it, and I... Thanks, Gavendo. You guys are such miserable humans. No, it's not towards me. I'm fine with it. Just like Quadir and Bell starting, like we're going to get throttled by NC State. Okay. It doesn't look anything like one Mr. Rogers would wear. He's kind of got like he looks more like a vice principal at a high school because he's got like a tie on with a sporty top over the top.
So full disclosure on the outfit right now. I had class today, 8 o'clock to 11. I had to interview Gary Gate.
You don't have to get angry.
Hang on. I had to interview Gary Gate at 11:15.
Calm down.
So I have jeans on the bottom. I put a shirt and a tie on the top and a sport coat to interview him because it was just a head and shoulder shot. And
Why
then
are you yelling at me?
It's chilly, so I put because I know this doesn't really match.
You.
This doesn't really match.
I was defending you,
but it doesn't really match. I realize that, but this was the only sweatshirt I had with me, and it's a little chilly, so I threw it on after I did the interview.
Anybody else feel like
you know what? People aren't supposed
Steve,
to see
you're
me.
super
I'm on
angry.
radio.
You're mean towards Chris Bell, and you're
I'm not
yelling
mean.
at me.
I'm not yelling.
We were talking out there about if Copeland does go to NC State and they come here next year. I don't even know if they're on the schedule to come to the Dome next year.
We'll definitely go there because we didn't go to. We didn't go to North Carolina. It could be one of the home and homes.
He would be, tossing behind the back.
Yeah.
Quadir?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
He'd be chirping at the fans.
Yeah. And even, of all the guys.
It's funny, too, because of all the places for him to go, remember he had that, incident with the NC State fans?
Yeah. Yeah, the NC State fans hated him.
And he hated them back.
Yeah.
We also don't know if Will Wade wants him. Like, I'm sure he could go, but like,
It's weird they didn't start like at the beginning of the year. I don't know if that's they had to like get him right or, but he was obviously big for them down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm with San Diego Q's. I'm not sure Bell's starting somewhere next year.
all right, I gotta give someone.
I'll be curious, like where
I'm
will
giving
they-
your number to somebody. You need a talking to.
Where will they rank
Guys, I know.
Chris Bell in a transfer portal ranking site?
Guys, I know Steve wasn't yelling at me. Okay, I was trying to be funny. He doesn't get angry. Well, yeah, he does.
Sometimes.
Oh, I don't have a song. This song's called Let Me Go, Steve. Let me go.
Remember back in the day when coaches would actually have to sign off to let you out of your scholarship?
There's not a lot of songs that have bop, 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 bop as their lyrics, but Let Me Go is my favorite one with it.
All right. If you happen to be watching us on QSportsTalk.com, you see that we've got Tim Leonard here in studio with us to kick off the second hour. Let's take a break from the hoops talk, Tim, to talk some lacrosse. And, man, this team's playing well. Last 4 games after they had that, those back-to-back losses, the head scratcher to Harvard, they've certainly picked up their play. I mean, what stood out to you from this latest win over Colgate?
Yeah, it's hard to not start with Joey Spallina based on what he did. 11 points for Spallina, which was the most in a game since Casey Powell scored 13 against Virginia in 1997. So Joey has now had 3 double-figure scoring games in his career. He hit 10 points 2 times and had 11 the other day against Colgate. So, his production is just really up there with some of the greats all time at Syracuse. And I know that some fans like to say, well, let's see him do it against Hopkins or against a top 5 team and things like that. Colgate definitely more of an offensive-minded team, but they were a ranked team. And Syracuse plays one of the toughest schedules in the country year in and year out, and he's right up there in points every single year. And he joined the 200-point club. He was tied for the second fastest player in program history to get to 200 points. So, yes, it's a little bit of a different era in lacrosse than maybe going back to the 80s and the 90s, and there's more goals. And just look at the way Colgate is playing. I mean, they came in averaging 16 goals per game, and Syracuse held them to 2 goals in the entire first half. And then they did kind of get more possessions in the second half and got a couple past Jimmy McCool, who was very, very good in the first half, probably the best half he's played this year. He had 13 saves in the first half alone and 18 in the game. So all in all, very satisfied, I think, if you're a Syracuse fan with how the last couple games have gone here. There's still little things that, all the fans are looking for that perfect 60-minute game still. They show some lapses. And yes, they should beat a Colgate or they should beat a Utah, and some of the schedule is lined up pretty well for them here, and we're going to really find out in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks once ACC play starts this weekend and onward. But I think they are coming together and playing like one of the better teams in the country.
Jumped out to an 8-2 lead at halftime, and Joey Spallina was really a setup man in the first half, had assists on 3 straight goals, and then it almost seemed like when Colgate got close that he was just like, fine, I'm going to do it myself, and kind of took matters into his own hands. And he's got that second gear, right? Like he can sit behind the net and just pick you apart all day, but he can also score, obviously.
Yeah, it was funny to hear Gary's comments post-game because they asked him about Colgate's defensive strategy, which Colgate is known for maybe calling it like junking it up a little bit, trying to throw out some zone. They throw out a 10-man ride, which the Orange had a good game plan against that. And for those that don't follow lacrosse that closely, 10-man ride means you're using the goalie, you're emptying the net and taking the goalie out during what the ride is, which is preventing the other team from clearing. So kind of like a full court press a little bit in basketball. And Syracuse scored a couple goals from beyond half field, or one goal from beyond half field from Billy Juan. Joey scored on an empty net as well against the 10-man ride. And they looked a little bit more poised against that than other teams that face Colgate. That's how they get a lot of their possessions back, is forcing turnovers. Syracuse is pretty good in that regard. And their defensive strategy, sometimes Kyle and I are calling the games and we're like, why did teams do this against Joey, where they let him just have the defender hung up and just sit back there and he can find a guy? He's the best passer probably in the nation in terms of finding guys on the move and putting it exactly where you want it. And sometimes teams want to slow down Syracuse's quick ball movement by just letting Joey be camped behind the net. And I get it a little bit, but anytime someone has done that, he's gone off for like 6-7 assists. So I feel like if you look at how he's done against that strategy, it doesn't really make sense why they're doing that.
So Joey Spallina, big day, 11 points, career high for him. Owen Hiltz also went over 200 career points, and he's a guy that didn't come in the same class as Joey, but came in with high expectations, and he's had some injuries throughout his career, but he's really developed into a really good player.
Yeah, I feel like Owen Hiltz is playing by far the best lacrosse of his career. Gary mentioned in the preseason that he lost some weight and came back with kind of the right attitude and everything. And he honestly doesn't maybe get enough credit, because Joey does get a lot of the big scoring games, and we've talked a lot about how good John Mullen has been at the Faceoff X. I think Owen Hiltz is that cerebral leader for the team, where he just has such a high lacrosse IQ. He knows when to slow things down. If it's a potential fast break, he's going to make the right call if they get him the ball. And he's just been around. He's played in a lot of big lacrosse games. I think he kind of has like a nonchalant nature about him, so teams kind of don't talk about him as much, or that maybe the media don't talk about him as much. Like when Joey scores, he's pumping his fist, he's going crazy. Owen Hiltz is like, yeah, just another goal. Let me snipe it in the corner. No ho-hum about it. But he's a terrific shooter, really high lacrosse IQ, and he has taken his game, even in what is his last year of eligibility, he's taking his game to another level this year for sure.
I did speak with Gary Gate before the radio show today, because we're going to have him on our TV show tonight. I know, Tim, you're going to be on it as well. So shameless plug there, 7 to 7:30 tonight. We'll have an interview with Gary Gate. Tim Leonard will be on at the end of the show live to talk some more lacrosse with us. Anyway, I asked Gary about the back-to-back losses. I said, listen, I know no coach wants to lose games. You always want to teach after a win if possible. But the fact that you lost those games back-to-back, has that helped you? And are you a better team because of it? And he said absolutely, and it's hard to argue with that. It does look like they learned something from those back-to-back losses.
Yeah, and I think that's why they schedule so tough, and why his strategy every year is to play not just against the best teams, but play a lot of games against the best teams. You look across the country, Notre Dame didn't play last week. They'll play probably, I think it's 10 or 11 games in their regular season schedule. They'll play basically the minimum. Syracuse, and I've talked with Gary about this a lot, he said, when I was a player, I got tired of doing practice all the time. I wanted to play games. That's where you get better. And that's what all the guys that are lacrosse rats and want to be a part of this team, because they know that Gary Gate is kind of in line with them, and they come here and they know they're going to play big games, and they're going to play a lot of huge games against top 10 teams. So I think they have gotten better from those losses. The other thing is, that Harvard game, we said it afterwards that it was just kind of like a statistical anomaly based on how many faceoffs they won. That is the only game where Jimmy McCool has not been at least very good. He's been really good in some of these games. And Gary did mention that was Jimmy McCool, a guy from Boston going against Harvard. A lot of his buddies from high school, and maybe it got in his head a little bit, which is understandable. And you can kind of overlook some of that sometimes. But I do think Jimmy McCool has been even better than you would have hoped, and in his first year starting, he's been one of the best goalies in the country at this point.
And now next up is Virginia. It's a road game, Klockner Stadium, tough place to play. This is an opponent that is playing with some urgency, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they've got 4 losses already, all to top 20 teams. We should point out that Virginia's 5-4, but they've lost to good opponents. And it's an ACC game, and it's an important one because, like we saw with men's basketball, you got to play your way into the ACC tournament. Speak to, I guess, how important this one is to get off on the right foot in conference play against a team that's playing desperate, playing at home. This isn't going to be an easy game.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a close game. I would be very surprised if it's not. And I know Virginia's record isn't that good. They're 5-4 now, coming off a win over Utah. and they don't really have any great wins to this point in the season. But this is something Kyle and I talk about a lot. In lacrosse especially, how much you know the opponent matters a lot. And you just go look at what happened when conference play opens across the nation in Division I lacrosse last week, outside of the ACC really. Maryland lost to Michigan. Michigan's a team that just seemingly always beats Maryland for some reason. And even though Maryland was 7-goal favorites in that game, Michigan beat them in triple overtime. Rutgers beat Johns Hopkins, which was a big upset. Army lost for the first time as well to Boston University in conference. So conference play is a different beast. All these games are going to be close. And I know on paper, Virginia seemingly has a down year, but they're going to pick off at least one ACC win, I'd say, and it could very well be Syracuse. It's a tough place to go down there and win a game.
You mentioned all the upsets that we've seen in college lacrosse. The new media poll is out, and there is a new number one team, and it's a team from Central New York, Cornell, sitting at the top. I don't know how much you've seen of the Big Reds. Syracuse will see them here in a couple of weeks. I know they've got 2 games prior to that to get ready. But what have you seen? C.J. Kirst, right? It starts with him. I mean, what have you seen out of the Big Red?
Yeah, that's going to be a really fun game. On Long Island, neutral site, 2 teams that score a lot. We know what happened last year. If anyone needs a refresher, it was that wild game where Cornell came back after Pat March was ejected. They won in overtime on a C.J. Kirst game winner, and he is definitely the favorite right now to win the Heisman of College Lacrosse, the Tewaaraton Award. So, yeah, it's an interesting year, really, because Cornell, to me, you watch them, and in all these teams, it just doesn't feel like there's an elite team this year, and I think some of that is so many of the previous years we've had that clear-cut elite team, and it's because a lot of guys were on their 5th year of college lacrosse, a lot of veteran teams. Notre Dame for the last 2 years has won. They've been head and shoulders above everyone else. Maryland before that was a historically great team. So you look at Syracuse, and I think a lot of fans are like, they're still having these lapses, and they're not playing consistently enough to be a Final Four team. But I think the threshold to make the Final Four this year, we need to reset from what it was the last couple years when there were the COVID years and veteran guys.
Fun fact about that game last year, the referee that threw out Pat March, he was an assistant basketball coach at Ithaca when I was there. He was one of my assistant coaches when I was there.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah. He also maybe had a Cornell email or something. There was some digging.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's lived there forever, and I believe his wife works at Cornell. There's a Cornell tie. But yes, he's been there for a really long time. Anyway, yes, strange game. They got some making up to do. Do you want to chime in, Paulie?
No, it's just I can't believe the fun that fact was.
I enjoyed it, Steve. I thought it was pretty fun.
Thank you, Tim. He's sitting here doing other things. He's not even paying attention.
Right.
And then I say something, he's got to chime in.
I am the purveyor of fun on this show.
That was not fun.
And I heard fun, so I was like, all right, let's go. This is going to be fun. Nah, nope.
No, it wasn't fun. All right.
Fun fail.
Well, with that, I guess we'll end this interview. Tim, thanks so much for coming on. We'll see you tonight on the TV side of things.
Always fun to be on, Steve.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. I think you're fun as well. Paulie, not so much. We're back after this on ESPN Radio.
The TV show's tonight? Is that what you're saying? I thought it was tomorrow night, Steve.
Yeah, you know what? It is.
Okay.
It's tomorrow.
Yeah, it is tomorrow. That's my. I will. You know what? I did the interview today. That's what I had in my mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I woke up last Friday thinking it was Saturday.
Yeah.
And I just sat in my bed, and then
I will fix that.
No, it's fine. I didn't want to call you out for it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad.
Sure
No, thank you.
Gaper, if you don't know my role on this show yet, you're not very good at figuring this show out. I am going to brick wall the show as much as possible, especially Steve talking fun facts.
I thought it was fun.
When's your half birthday? Is it approaching?
I just had my birthday, February 27th, so it's August 27th. It's a while.
Someone please keep track of it. August 27th. I'm going to celebrate it more than your actual birthday.
You ever seen a pitcher throw a no-hitter without any fielders? Or a quarterback win a football game without an offensive line? A team is critical in sports, and it's the same with DWI defense. That's why the DWI guys are now the DWI team, a team to protect the innocents and help others secure a second chance. The DWI team, now no one can defend you like us. DWI team.
T takes. I thought it was amateur hour doing that with Hurley. Did not like that at all. Yeah, he is a crybaby, and I don't know. Like, I get that he's won back-to-back national titles, so he's
Did you hear him too? It's like, oh, it's so exhausting riding a tidal wave of success.
Yeah,
he's so unlikable.
He's such a crybaby. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Gavendo.
Should I be fired, Gaper Bazingo? I think I should. What do you think? I'm Steve Sickkick. Steve. I emptied out my cupboard this weekend because I had a stomach bug on Friday, and I didn't want to go out on Saturday, risk it. You don't want to be out in public with that. So I cleaned out my cupboards, and I had a cake mix from 2017 in my...
That's aggressive. That's 8 years old.
Yeah, it moved with me also, it means. Like, I must have had it, packed it, and moved it.
Like, I might bake this cake at some point.
That was my one thing is, like, when was I ever, like, contemplating making a cake? The only thing I can think of is that my ex-girlfriend bought it, and it was in, like...
Just put it in there?
Yeah, because I don't think I've ever been like, oh... cake mix as I'm walking through the...
Well, it clearly wasn't for my half birthday because we were not working together at that point when you bought it.
No.
But in case you want to make one for my half birthday, spice cake is my favorite. Favorite cake. You don't like
spice cake?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
What
the hell is spice cake? Like carrot cake?
Yeah, kind of. It's not quite like carrot cake.
It sounds like something a grandma would like.
It's been my cake of choice. I prefer apple pie.
I threw it out. Our source is 3/4 birthday. It's his 3/4 birthday. Life is a highway, Steve. For some of the people in the portal, they want to ride it to a different school. It's opening day of the portal. It's funny, the portal opens, baseball opens this week, a lot of openings this week.
Spring is almost here.
Yeah.
Spring football.
Spring football's going on. We'll get to some Fran Brown quotes here in a second. I just want to, you do this it's without fail. Like 30 seconds before we come back from break, we're just talking on Q Sports Talk for people that are watching. And we're usually discussing food. Food, you can't go wrong with food.
Yeah.
And you said your favorite cake is spice cake.
Yes.
I don't even know what that is. It sounds like the black licorice of cakes. It sounds like old person cake.
It tastes like gingerbread, like a gingerbread cookie. That's what it tastes like.
Yeah, that sounds awful. Why would you eat that?
It's my favorite. I'm not a big cake guy because I don't like frosting.
I feel like you're.
If you were going to make me a cake, that's what you would make me.
You're a 50.
I am almost 50.
Yeah, but you're 90. You're a 50-year-old in a 90-year-old stomach. And now I got to look up what a spice cake is. Like, come on.
That's what it is. It tastes like a gingerbread cookie.
It's like carrot cake without the carrots.
Correct. Yeah, that's
super moist spice cake. Yeah, I'm out on that. Give me chocolate. Death by chocolate. Mine is sin. It's I like sin cake.
What's that?
It is. It's like a graham cracker crust with chocolate pudding and whipped cream and like cream cheese. It's really good.
See that wouldn't.
It's got a really inappropriate name, and my mom just called it sin cake, and I didn't know why, but it was because I was like, that's not like as an adult. I looked. That's the name of the cake I grew up having for my birthday. All right. Football. You want to talk some football?
We can talk some football.
Fran Brown spoke, and the big news, Steve, everybody's chatting up this possible Colorado spring practice. Fran Brown threw his hand up as soon as Deion Sanders said, hey, we need to practice against somebody else. And here's his thoughts on that.
Nobody wants to have spring games anymore. Nobody wants to have be around. They're worrying about the portal. Like, I'm not worrying. I think that when you're up front with them and they know you care for them, why would they not want to stay? So I would love to go out there to learn some stuff. And then we got some financial literacy things that we're going to go through. And then academics, we're going to have an academic session also for them to understand and know how important it is to handle all of those other pieces. Because how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either, but maybe not this year. I think it sounds like it may happen in the future. They're pushing for it to happen. And you know, the NCAA has to figure something out with that because a lot of programs are just saying, you know what, we're not going to have a spring game. So this might be a way that, you know, other programs buy in, and I don't hate the idea. Like, you see this in the NFL all the time. Teams get together for a couple of days, they practice, then they play a game, and they go their separate ways. Teams that would not play each other during the regular season. Syracuse and Colorado are not going to play each other unless it's in a bowl game. I think that it could benefit both parties involved. You could get a little publicity out of it, you know, and I think that's partly why Syracuse is doing it. And they're friends. I mean, Fran and Deion are good friends. And so, I don't know. I like the idea. I would be surprised if it happened in time for this year, given that it's up to the NCAA at this point and they're running out of time to make a decision. But I think it's a great idea moving forward.
Yeah. Let me see what else we got here. What's stuck out to you? Here it is on how you overcome players leaving.
Okay.
Steve.
Developing new good players and new leaders. I mean, it happens all the time. That's just football, right? Good players leave and new good players come. I can recruit, so I'm good. We be straight. It's part of the game, right?
I think the one, I don't know the sound that you have. I think the one that everybody's talking about is when he said that they're not playing games at the quarterback position, that he hopes to have a decision on that, sooner rather than later. He didn't put a timeline on it, but he said he's not playing games, and you want to know sooner rather than later who the leader of this team is. And I think that we all know, which direction they're leaning, but you want to make a decision, and you want to stick with that guy.
We're going to be straight. I'm very happy for Kyle. Are you? Me too, man. I'm excited about Kyle. I mean, our guys, we're going to be fine. I'll handle that when the time comes. But let's talk about that pro day and how he was dominating out here throwing the ball. Kyle McCord should be picked in the first round.
Yeah, that soundbite on Kyle McCord.
But he said they're going to be straight at quarterback.
Yeah, right. And I think they will be. Like he's got a plan in place. He wants to evaluate this spring, and I think the hope and the expectation is that by the end of spring, at the very least who the front runner is. You may not necessarily award him the job in the spring, but I think you want to know who the leader of your football team is.
It's one thing to be straight about your quarterback, but the schedule is kind of daunting this year, Steve.
We have to handle our business for where we are now in order to be ready for that schedule. So I know we play game one, but because everybody always talking about it, outside of that, I don't care about that schedule. I'm focused on spring football. I'm focused on us getting a 3.2 overall team GPA in the classroom. We had a 3.02 last year. When I first got here, we had a 2.97 overall as our team. So now we want a 3.2, right? So like that, I'm focused on that. I'm focused on the culture. I'm focused on Dart. I'm focused on spending as much time as I can with my wife and my daughter. Like the things that are extremely important now, I can't worry about who plays. That'll handle itself. We're going to replace all those players with other players, right?
That's the idea. Replace all the guys who left with a new crop of talented players. And, I mean, and that's just it, too. When we talk about they've got to figure out their quarterback position, sooner rather than later. Is there urgency to do it, right this second? Not necessarily. You want to make sure you pick the right guy. But you want to be able to hit the ground running. And you want these guys to be able to come together in the summer when they're doing summer workouts. He said this last year with Kyle McCord that it's Fran Brown, it's Kyle McCord, and then it's the other assistant coaches in terms of the leadership of the team. Like, that's how important the quarterback, he looks at the quarterback in what he's trying to build. And so Fran Brown's still at the top. Who is that guy who's right under him? You want to make that decision sooner rather than later so that they can come together and gravitate towards that guy over the summer.
I've been saying this a lot, Steve. I got to ignore our chat. You guys got to stop comparing Fran Brown to Adrian Autry, because Fran Brown had a great first year. He may have a great second. If he has a great second year, amazing. But, you don't know. Adrian Autry had an okay first year, had a horrible second year, and he's on a hot seat now. You guys are in here talking up Fran Brown. I know every single one of you that are talking him up right now, if he struggles, will be all over him immediately.
Well, Paulie, we saw it with Dino, right?
We saw it with Fran.
No, okay.
When they lost to Pittsburgh, they wanted the Indiana coach.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'm saying we saw it, over the course of several years grow and evolve with Dino, where, he won 10 games and it was, and all the sayings and all the baking the cake.
Yeah.
And,
if Fran starts losing here, people are going to tell him to shove his dart up his
the dart and the winners get washed like it's great now. He knows that. He knows he's got to keep winning. And that's what the focus is and the mentality is. But, you're right about the fan base. I mean, we've seen that. And it's not everybody, but we've seen that. They will turn on a coach fairly quickly. So
yeah, and it doesn't mean if he does struggle, it doesn't mean Fran Brown should be fired next year. He's got to grow his program. Yeah. It'll be the same, and everybody will call me a homer because I'll say the same thing about him. It's only year 2, guys. So just let you know.
A couple other things just to touch on from what Fran talked about on Friday. He mentioned, somebody asked him about Zeed Haynes, and Zeed Haynes, it sounds like, is no longer playing football. We got that?
He's chilling. He's in school. He's getting a degree. He ain't playing right now. He ain't playing no more. He's going to chill. He put the cleats up, but he's going to dominate the work world. I mean, just a hell of a guy, great kid. We're excited about him, man. But that's
so basically said he's.
That's why we got Tyshawn Russell. You might not have seen. You want to talk about the guy not there, but you didn't want to talk about Tyshawn Russell and how good he's doing, and Jalen Hornsby.
So he kind of went into some of the options that they have at the wide receiver position, but Zeed Haynes, it sounds like he's retired from football. He didn't use those words, but said he hung them up, and he's in class, and he's working toward his degree, and I don't think he's ever going to get into publicly what happened with that situation. It's unfortunate because he's obviously a very talented young man, but he is not on the roster, and it doesn't sound like you should expect him to be on the roster.
Right. Red's program has about as much excitement around it as a nursing home. Yeah, if they start winning next year, guys, you'll all be back. And if they lose, you'll all still be miserable. It's just, the excitement comes with winning. They had a really awful year this year. And someone says, I will still love Fran after 5-7 in a tough schedule. Great coach. Okay. There's no guaranteeing they go 5-7. I mean, he could win 10 games again next year. He could win 3. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule next year for Fran is very difficult, obviously. They've got all their tough games, several tough games, and all of them are away from the Dome, beginning with Tennessee right off the bat. So
go win them. That'd be awesome.
Are you going, by the way? Will you be there?
Tennessee? Hell yeah.
Yeah, okay.
To Georgia? Yeah.
I think we're going to that one as well from a Channel 9 perspective.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun year. It's going to be, it will show the fans. I mean, if he wins, jeez. He is as good as, as advertised. But it's also going to show, where you got to get to.
Then the fan base is going to be saying, there's no way you could keep him. They'll be upset about something, right? I mean, if he wins at that level again next year, everybody's going to want him.
Yes.
If he goes 8-4 with that schedule.
And Syracuse is going to have to do the exact same thing they did with Dino. If he, they're going to extend him.
Sure.
And it's not going to... and he's got to keep winning.
Yeah.
It's not easy to win in college sports.
No, especially nowadays. A lot has changed, obviously, as we've discussed.
Especially in basketball for 50 years. Like, it's it's difficult. And hopefully this is an anomaly. And if it's not, we will be talking transfer portal and new head coach at this time, either next year or the following year.
Yeah, right. No doubt. All right, 315-437-7644. We'll take a break. We'll get to today's business next on ESPN Radio.
I doubt he'll be on this week because they're probably very busy right now. The hell is this Brian Higgins auto dealership advertisement we got here? I'm Brian Higgins. Come buy a Toyota for me. He looks like it belongs on a bus. My prices are insane. I'm Brian Higgins. I've got inventory that has to go. Wah, wah, wah. The only thing lower than my prices are Reds win percentage. Eddie Lampkin loved my cars. He used to have DoorDash sent for my cars. Buy an Eddie Lampkin DoorDash car from me, Brian Higgins.
Got a car dealership?
Come look at this Brian Higgins ad. It looks like a car dealership.
Bad credit?
Anybody can get in a car with Brian Higgins.
Dealing with me will be a slam dunk. I like it. Ooh.
Everybody who buys a car from Brian Higgins gets a 70-inch TV in the trunk. We haven't done the bird vote yet today. I got to go grab that damn bracket, son. I got to type it up, too. I can't even read my own handwriting. Oh, what up, dog? I get it. What up, dog? Red's not fired, but I'm fired up about these low prices. Everything must go in our transfer portal sale.
And then I'll just work on scripts until you get back. But yeah, no, that sounds good. We have a good plan. Okay. All right. Thanks, man. See you. Bye.
Safe travels, Gavendo.
How much time?
15 seconds.
15? Should we tell him he's coming in, right?
Yeah. This song, Steve, is called Stay by Rihanna. So far, we don't know who's staying in the portal. The silence is deafening and nerve-wracking. I can't take it. The suspense is killing me. Is J.J. Starlin staying or going? Is Donnie Freeman staying or going? Just say it. They got to know, right?
I mean, it's day one.
This season's been over.
I would
dude.
assume
it's not day one for them.
I would assume that they have a good idea of what they're doing, but
well, let me know.
Yeah.
I don't really get how they would know because no other coach or program was allowed to contact them until today. So how would they know how much money they're going to get?
There's people out there around them that have my phone number. They could just give it to them and have them call me and let me know if they're staying or going.
You mentioned that a lot of times, Dave. Did something happen?
No, nothing.
Oh, okay.
Nothing.
Because you've like said it a lot. So I was just curious. If
no, just feel free to call me whenever you'd like if you have my number.
I just wonder if there is, let us know because it's getting pretty suspect.
All right. Today's business?
Yeah. Brought to you by
Grossman St. Moore CPAs.
And where can you find them on the web?
GSACPAs.com. They're good with money. So, if you're a player who's leaving Syracuse to go to like Louisville and get paid $2 million, Grossman St. Moore CPAs. NCAA tournament. I'll just start with this. That's what we're going to talk about because that's what's happening. Yes or no, has this year been lame so far? Biggest upset was McNeese, and that's been ruined for me because all I can hear about is how great Quadir Copeland played with his 7 turnovers. I'm just going to go on a rant. They made me so mad. Like, watch the actual game. Did anybody see when he threw the ball out of bounds or when he tried to dribble through the press and got held up or when he just traveled with the ball inexplicably? He played solid. Quit acting like he deserves like most outstanding player for that performance. He played solid. He turned the ball over 7 damn times. That was the problem here with him on the court. Okay.
He is what he is, as we said at the beginning of the show.
Has March Madness been as good for you guys?
It's been Marchy. The madness has been lacking.
I mean, there's been some really good games.
That first game was the best game in the play-in game when they had the
that was a good game.
Yeah,
it was a good
American
finish.
or Mount St. Yeah, and I knew as soon as that game finished that Duke was going to keep going, as we talked about before.
All right, so this kind of leads me to what I said to you guys off air as we were starting the show. And I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but I feel the need to bring it up watching those games yesterday. So the best moment of the tournament, I would say, after the play-in game, I think was yesterday, right? That the lead changes in the final seconds of Colorado State against Maryland and the buzzer beater. You watch the replay, right? I didn't care either way who won the game, but
Well, why would you care in general? It's Maryland, Colorado State.
Derek Queen clearly traveled, right? He clearly took 3 steps. And then, apparently there was an official that chimed in afterwards and said, yeah, he traveled. In the NBA, you can get that right. You can challenge it, and you can look at it and say...
In the NBA, it wasn't a travel.
Well, okay, but you get my point.
Yes.
Is that...
Thank you. I just wanted to make that clear.
You would be able to challenge that, and you would be able to look at it and say, yeah, clearly traveled. Now, I'm not saying it because I wanted Colorado State to win or vice versa. I'm just saying that, that play decided the game, and the officials got it wrong, and the wrong team is moving on, right? And is it time to get to a point where now instead of looking at everything in the last 2 minutes, things that don't even need to be looked at, they're looking at, and they're looking if it's 36.1 seconds on the clock or 36.3, and people say, well, it's going to lengthen the game. You're lengthening the game right now. Leave it up to the coaches. They get one challenge, and if they're right, they get another. End of story. Instead of reviewing 5 things in the last 2 minutes that don't need to be reviewed. I really think it's time to go to the coaches' challenges.
I'll tell you this, is a coach who makes the fancy bags. If Coach agreed to sponsor it today, we would have it before the end of this year's tournament if they were getting paid for it. I don't think it's a bad idea. Also, what a heck of a shot by Queen.
That was a great play, yeah.
I agree with you. I don't have much to say on that, so I'll pivot to this. It's on a related topic. So Gene Steratore, he's like that rules analyst, said because he was kind of bobbling the ball in his left hand, he hadn't gathered it yet, and therefore his 2 steps didn't start until it was gathered, and agreed with the officials like he always does.
So here's the thing. Just let me interrupt for 1 second. So that's fine. Like if they look at it and they determine on the court like that's what the reasoning was, then tell us that. Or I'm going to give you one more example real quick. Kentucky, Illinois. Last minute of the game, Illinois player in the corner clearly gets fouled on a 3. Gets his, you look at the replay, his arms, both of his arms got raked. They didn't call foul, and the ball went out of bounds off him. So what do? They run over to the table, they stop the game for 5 minutes, they review it to see who the ball went off of. And it clearly is off the Illinois guy. He clearly got hammered on the 3-point attempt. To me, that makes 0 sense. Like, if we're going to take the time to go look at it, let's get it right. So if you're a coach and you have a coach's challenge, you could be like, hey, our guy got fouled. They look at it. They see for 2 seconds. Okay, they look at it for one minute. Okay, yeah, he gets fouled. Let's put him on the line for 3.
Steve, let me ask you this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you're always Mr. Don't call that there. Should that have, what would you be saying today if the official had called traveling there?
Again, as a basketball fan, you want to see the buzzer beaters. For that team that lost, like the wrong team won that game, in my opinion. And I guess there could be some debate, and it's open for interpretation whether or not he traveled. To me, watching that, and I thought in real time, by the way, that he traveled. I was watching the game with my son. I was like, how many steps did he take? And then you look back on the instant replay, and he clearly takes 3 full steps. To me, the wrong team won that game. So, I know what you're saying. Like, there would have been bedlam inside that arena if they look at it and they wave it off after that whole celebration. But if the goal is to get it right, I want to get it right. I want the right team to win the game.
Anything else, Jordan?
Yes, just my original thought on that whole thing with Gene Steratore was in the St. John's, Arkansas game. He was also doing a little rules analysis cut in, and there was a flagrant foul called. Well, it wasn't called, but they reviewed it. And it was called common at first. And he's like, yeah, that's a common foul. And then as soon as they ruled it a flagrant foul, he was like, the more I watch it, the elbow got up high. Am I crazy, or is he making himself look like a shill who just agrees with the officials every time?
He does
every time.
He does seem to agree every single time.
But it's real bad when you change your opinion after the call.
Do you know what I learned about flagrant fouls this week? That if you get hit in the junk, it's a flagrant foul. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Shot to the junk is a flagrant, even if it's involuntary.
Right. It didn't even look like it was.
I was like, I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. But if you hit the goods.
Yeah, and then the officials were like, well, they had no choice.
Yeah, yes. Get that thing out of the way.
That St. John's, Arkansas game for me, that also might have been like of the tournament just because of everything going on. That was so good.
So to get back to that, again, just my point about the review, I think we would all agree the 5th foul on Kadari Richmond was not a foul. And if you had a coach's challenge, you don't necessarily have to use it in the last 2 minutes. That was with 7 minutes to go or whatever it was. That changed the game, and it was clearly the wrong call.
He was also playing pretty bad.
He played awful. Clearly the wrong call, though. We agree on that. So anyway,
they all played awful. What were they combined? 4 for 41 from 3. That was 80s and 70s basketball looked
like. And can you imagine if SU's best player put up that performance in that kind of game and the coach benched his best player for the last 5 minutes? Can you imagine? Can you imagine what Sports Talk Radio would be like the next day?
But I just get to the damn tournament right now. I don't care if you lose in the first round.
Because that'll be the rebuttal now.
Yeah, I don't care. Right. I would take that in a second, people being mad about a tournament loss.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss that.
You get my point, though.
Yeah, I do get your point, but I hate it.
Yeah.
Jordan, anything else?
No. Dateline.
I found one for you, by the way. I'll share it with you after the show.
You found a kicker?
Yeah, for you.
Don't get mad, but I've got to say this. This is going to be so,
boring.
Yeah. It's gonna,
all right.
Look at this. An old lady was helped across the street.
We got to hurry. We'll do the bird bracket offline. Here we go. Things you clean I cleaned out my cupboards this weekend. Things people forget to clean, according to NPR. So Dateline the World. So when you're doing your spring cleaning, Steve, or making your wife do the spring cleaning, because we know how you are with the power washer, air conditioning filters, get those.
Okay.
Clean those out. Your fridge coils. I learned that I had to get a new fridge because my fridge coils collected so much dust that my fridge overheated. Your range hood, the filter.
Yeah.
Clean that out. And your dishwashers. I did that this weekend too. I bought the dishwasher cleaner. I did that this too. And your drains. If you have a garbage disposal, clean that because they can get stinky.
Yeah.
So there you go. Those are some things people forget to clean.
Oh, that was like a public service announcement.
Yeah.
My thing is better than that. I mean, you can share it tomorrow if you want. I'll give it to you during the commercial break. We'll wrap things up next on ESPN Radio.
I was going to end with that Kevin butt crack. Yeah, people sometimes forget.
What's a fridge coil?
They're on the back of the fridge. All the coils.
Oh, so I have to move the whole fridge?
Here you go. Here it is right here.
Over-under on Steve's kicker being fun.
He told the mall that he was an Orlando Magic basketball player.
Okay, that's a good one. That is a good one.
Someone called in to say that you guys were glossing over a play in the first half from Colorado State. I didn't watch where like some guy elbowed and.
Oh, who gives a shit what that does?
But he was like, "I'm in my office, so I can't go on the air."
What was his point?
He was like, "You guys are talking about the last play, like the refs blew it when they're. I guess it's Colorado State's best player."
Brian Higgins, everything must go. Boom, boom, boom.
At any point, did you use the phrase, this is a guest line to be on the radio station?
Be like, sir, this is Wendy's.
You want to go on? And he said, "I'm in my office, so I can't really."
Yeah, and that's when you followed up with, so this is a guest line if you want to come on the radio station.
Yeah.
Have you seen Brian Higgins' used car ad?
What are you talking about?
He opened a used car dealership.
Did you tell him to call the pass it along line?
I did not.
Okay.
Get Higgy with it.
Like, there's no way for me to tell them about it right now.
There's a chat on qsportstalk.com where you can pass things along instead of wasting
We need to
our
wrap a
time.
bus in this Brian Higgins ad.
No, just wait. We have them for every show.
Brian sells Yugos.
You want me to email this to you?
Yes, please. I don't know. Apparently, there is an Orange Nation one coming up.
Oh, I don't know if it's coming up, but it's made. I don't think we're getting promoted at all.
Brian, apparently not. Brian Higgins. No, we shouldn't do us during our show.
Well, I'm not
people
talking
know.
about during our show.
Brian Higgins, Subaru. I asked for a new Pawn Pro commercial months ago. That's all I can do.
Are they even still paying for that? Like, the commercial's been airing for 6 months.
It wouldn't
bare
be
minimum.
running. The commercial wouldn't be running if they weren't paying.
What do you mean?
The commercial wouldn't be running if they weren't paying for it.
I emailed you.
They have like end dates on their buys. Who's this Steve-O guy on Twitter? I don't like him. Him and Dilemma-Cuse. You asked a question about the name to chat, message board name to chat ratio. They all use the same names. San Diego Cuse, Dilemma-Cuse, who wants me fired. That's a bad take.
Who's the one you were arguing with on Twitter about Chris Bell?
Steve-O.
That was him, the one who was like, Chris Bell was used wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. This is to Donnie Freeman and JJ Starling. Stay, Jackson Brown.
All right, we're running out of time
longer.
here.
Just
Yes.
one more year. Give us one more year. Someone will pay you. Your artist of the day choices are for tomorrow: Aretha Franklin, Mariah Carey, Celine Dion, Guns N' Roses.
Give me Mariah.
Yeah, sure.
Mariah Carey wins. It's a sweep.
All right. And just like that, we're out of time. Newhouse Afternoons coming up next. Cody at 3, Brian at 4. We are back at it noon tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of the day, everybody.
Hey.